Okay, so my name is Jim McBride. I live in Fairfax, Virginia, and an Obama Biden Democrat asking you for to support a new campaign to democratize and strengthen the Democratic Party to fight for democracy in 2021 and beyond. Before I explain why, I want to tell you about myself so you can get a sense of my wide-ranging experiences to help me develop my message today. As you can see, I founded and helped lead several communities over the years, most recently serving as a Communities United leader for the Biden-Harris campaign. Overall, I've spent nearly 3 decades studying, working, and organizing in communications and politics. Examples of my work include 2 day of service events on MLK Day. DC area Yang Gang hosted an MLK March for a basic income that was intended for the MLK Memorial, but instead was directed to the security perimeter protecting the People's House, where King's vision led to the Civil Rights Act and Voting Rights Act, and could soon lead to new COVID relief programs that can cancel poverty once and for all. I've been hosting weekly Blue Victory War Room virtual briefings since September, but that evening I hosted a Blue Victory Peace Room that discussed the inauguration schedule and showcased day of service programs like the MLK March. That event and our Blue Victory inauguration party both attracted more than 150 registered attendees. So I've worked with a variety of political factions and communities, but I think my identity is best described as an Obama-Biden Democrat, which has been a pretty good thing for Democrats in 3 of the last 4 presidential elections. Of course, Joe has also called himself an Obama-Biden Democrat because he is proud of their administration and feels they set the tone for what 21st century leadership should look like. Now, after hearing about Joe's choices for DNC leadership, I find that I'm supportive, especially of Jamie Harrison as DNC chairman, who understands the ground level work of the party as a former South Carolina party chair. In his opening remarks at the DNC winter meeting, he mentioned that the party needed to operate as a community organization, not just as a political organization. So I'm hopeful. But after about 3 decades studying, working, and organizing in the field, I have learned many lessons about how to spread a message and the obstacles in the Democratic Party to spreading its message. Now, look familiar? In 2009, political experts were talking about how demographics were destiny and the Republican Party would have to modernize itself or would be left behind. But the opposite happened. But what about the movement of hope and change? I warned that we needed to continue to organize early on. As a founder of the Generation Obama DC chapter, I was among those invited to meet DNC Chair Tim Kaine to discuss young professional fundraising through Gen 44, where I discussed the importance of keeping the movement going with community building programs, not just raising money. And to his credit, he agreed that you need to do friend raising before you can do fundraising. But not enough was done to flip the ladder of engagement we were expected to climb. The system just wasn't built for adapting to change. I wasn't really sure who else to talk to, so I drafted a memo and gave it to Obama's 2008 campaign manager, David Plouffe, during his book tour, where I spelled out the power of using social media for canvassing your friends, which is now called relational organizing. In 2020, it was being described by Biden-Harris organizers as the secret weapon to reach voters during Soul Squad Saturdays and friend banks. That's why now we need to create ongoing programs for supporters to reach out to their networks every week, not every other year. So as you may recall, despite Obama's re-election, the party was wrecked down ballot again and again. And in 2011, Donald Trump decided to begin his political career by lying about where President Obama was born, and then everything else. Sadly, he exploited our vulnerabilities in engaging with rural and working class Democrats who wanted to feel heard. So here we are again with the Democratic White House, House of Representatives, and Senate by hair. The reality is we're a more sharply divided nation this time. I know this full well because I'm often hosting Zooms using Wi-Fi in a mall instead of talking about politics in my own home. And we might be facing a fascist insurgency spreading hate while we try to defend a loose-knit coalition of pro-democracy voters who span the political spectrum. This is a bigger challenge than any group of individuals can handle alone. We need to ensure that we're popping the information bubbles and dismantling the organizing silos. It will require the ideas, support, and outreach of millions of movement-wide ambassadors who will listen and engage with their friends and neighbors. It will require a Democratic National Committee that is vibrant and innovative, fueled by numerous forms of diversity, ranging from race and religion to urban and rural. It will require a democratized party that is self-reflective and can adapt to a volatile political landscape that is being constantly transformed by online movements and disinformation. A modern political party has to be a crowdsourced community that is shaping the narrative and not reacting to it. It has to constantly evolve because the best way to learn is to fail fast, as they say in the startup world. And I've always thought that is what being an Obama-Biden Democrat is all about. It means listening and bringing people together to do big things. To me, an Obama-Biden Democrat is a democracy-crat that leads with a message of hope that ties together with our democratic values, to respect, to empower, to include, and follow Joe's campaign code. A Democrat questions the judgment, a democracy-crat questions the judgment of their opponents, but not their motives, a popular saying often shared by President Biden. And his campaign backed it up by preaching to call people in rather than calling people out when we face a conflict. A democracy-crat believes giving everyone a voice in the political process is more important than attempting to control the outcome of that process. A democracy-crat believes the first thing we need to do to build influence is to build trust by developing authentic relationships through listening to voters and acknowledging where there is common ground. So we have made great strides under Chairman Perez, who has done a great deal to change the culture with an every zip code strategy, but we need to double down on what is working and not assume our progress is done. That means building on our new foundation with more candidates, more information, more transparency, more organizing, more technology, more data, more media, more community engagement, and more voter participation. At the very least, we cannot tolerate another Iowa caucus debacle in the party ever again. We need to clearly communicate that the culture is about a truly democratic party built on democratic values, which should develop an every precinct strategy to support it. Effective local and party committees should always focus on clearly delegating responsibilities to achieve desired results. But I don't see how the current Democratic National Committee structure adequately empowers you to maximize your potential and to help deliver on our mission. We cannot afford to sit back and see how things go this time. We need to give our supporters more direction on how to organize in every aspect of politics, online and offline. We must continue to prove we will campaign the same way we want to govern, because if more democracy is good for America, then it sure as hell should be good for the Democratic Party. To give you an example, I have worked hard to do just that in recent years by helping engage grassroots activists in the National Capital Region with numerous events promoting DNC operations, DNC elections, DNC meetings, and DNC resolutions. I was quite proud when at a messaging summit hosted at the Women's Democratic Club in 2018, we worked with a DNC member to submit about 30 resolutions to the DNC. 10 were approved for consideration by the staff and gained sponsors, and then were passed through the resolutions committee. One of them was even co-sponsored by Chairman Perez. So within a few degrees of separation, some young leaders got to give input that was quickly adopted by party leadership. And there are many other examples of new leaders we should be talking about as well. State-based programs like the Virginia Women's Summit, which was hosted by a grassroots group called Network Nova, that was born after the first Women's March. And by 2019, almost every candidate in Virginia wanted to speak to the 1,000-plus badass activists in attendance. And Democrats finished off the GOP as a statewide power by flipping control of the General Assembly for the first time in decades. The simple thing that these ladies understand more than most is if you want to organize a political party, you should start by throwing a great party. We can work together and avoid a constant civil war between the complacency caucus and the cancel caucus, or between the establishment and the revolution. So here's my preliminary platform with some key examples of how we can take tangible steps to move the party forward so every voice and every idea is heard. The first step is to establish the concept that you can do a checkup even if the patient is still alive. We don't need an autopsy, but we need to investigate how the Democratic Party can continue our progress and help heal the wounds inside our democracy. Thus, following the Presidential Inauguration Committee's theme of America United, I propose that the DNC host a Democrats United Summit in the coming months to reimagine our party by examining how we can further expand our big tent and work together to better engage with non-Democrats. So the best solution right now is to make a commitment to listening and discussing solutions. Then, as actor Sam Elliott said in a great Biden ad, we can go from there. So if you want to support this strategy, please fill out the enclosed survey to share what you think the most important needs of the party are in 2021. You can even do it anonymously if that is more comfortable for you. And let's get to work. No malarkey.